Bentley, big power, even bigger prostate problems. Nah. Bentley, faster than your pacemaker, softer than your spine. Yeah, it's a bit gross, actually. Bentley, now hybridized just like you after 3 hip replacements. It's a bit wordy. I realized that Bentley never really had a slogan, so I tried to come up with one that effectively matches the customer base. And before any of you try to come at me for age shaming, just know that I am one of you, and I can prove it. Listen very carefully. Let me show you something. All right, you ready for this? Listen very carefully. Yeah, I didn't stretch this morning. So the big word associated with any performance car that has a convertible version is compromise. The idea is that you're always going to lose going with the convertible version of a performance car that has a hardtop version or was designed to be a hardtop initially. With cars like this, you lose structural rigidity, you lose lightness, and you lose things like storage space and general practicality. You're always going to have a lesser than version of the car. At least that's what people like to say. And that's why the convertible version of a performance car that is initially offered as a coupe is always the least desirable version of a car, minus like, you know, McLarens and Ferraris and very specific cars. But to me, the beauty of the Continental GTC is that none of that compromise really matters or applies to this car. Now, yeah, the trunk space is absolutely diabolical. We'll talk about that a bit more later. But I mean, okay, yeah, it's heavier now because of the convertible system. So it's, you know, now closer to 6,000 pounds than 5,000 pounds. And yeah, it's less structurally rigid. It's absolutely gonna ruin my track times. And so despite all of the compromises, the GTC is actually, to me, a more fun car to just drive and live with compared to the coupe, despite it being a weaker performer and having a less attractive silhouette. But then you get to hear that. You get to hear that a lot better. That's great. So Bentley claims this car can do 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, and quite frankly, I believe it based on Bentleys that we've launched in the past. The Flying Spur Speed does 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, we've confirmed that, and the coupe version of this car does 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. So I suspect it will be somewhere in the middle, and I figured just for the best possible results, we will put the top up, but for the rest of the video, the top will be down. But our tank is almost completely empty, so the car should in theory be as light as possible with me in it, and it's plenty warm. The tires have already been warmed up. Let's see how this thing does. All right, we got PDK, so it's very simple. Foot on brake, foot on throttle, go! Man, that thing is epic! Epic, 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 epic. Woo! Yeah. Just a monster off the line. All right, that was 0 to 60 in 3.27 seconds. Pretty much exactly what Bentley claims the car will do. I'm satisfied with that. I don't think we need to launch this thing again. I think that's a plenty good number. 3.2 seconds for a nearly 6,000 pound car. Nutso. That is nutso. I don't know what nutso means. I just made that up. This thing's fast. That's my point. First things first, the noises. The Continental soundtrack is probably the closest thing you're going to get to a Bugatti Veyron under $1 million. And with the GTC version and having the top down, you could hear all those epic induction big turbo sounds so much better. The soundtrack is just so good, and it's one of the things I really do appreciate about the Continental is because, yeah, you look at this car on paper, it's using the same twin-turbo V8 and hybrid setup that's in a dozen other cars under the VAG portfolio, but the way they tune this car gives it its own unique sound that isn't like any other car you can buy from VAG. It's not like a Panamera, it's not like a Cayenne, it's not like the Urus. It really is its own thing. And so there's still a little bit of that British signature sound in this kind of almost fully German car. You get this nice, deep, baritone-y, just epic soundtrack that it's just one of the things that makes me love driving this car. Despite it not being the loudest car ever or having the craziest tone, the pure induction sound, it's so good, it's so good. And one of the best things to happen to the Continental was getting the PDK transmission, because outside of the Ferrari 12 Cilindri, it's really one of the only true GT cars that uses an actual dual clutch transmission. Everything else is using a traditional torque converter automatic. And the shifts are lightning quick, they're smooth, they're responsive. It's literally perfect for this system. Really the only thing that I'm not crazy about that Bentley does specifically, because this isn't something I experienced with like the Panamera or the Cayenne, for example. Bentley, for whatever reason, is super stingy with first gear, where it won't let you downshift into first until you're basically at a standstill. So right now I'm in second. I'm gonna try to downshift to first. It's not letting me, not letting me, not letting me, not letting me. Now I'm at like 20 miles an hour. I think it waits till I'm about second grand or 2 grand, and then boom, then it'll give me first gear. So I would really love to get some more aggressive downshifting capabilities. I feel like that's all just tuning software and stuff like that. But I mean, other than that, this transmission is virtually perfect for this car. It's perfectly smooth and compliant for just smooth driving around town, especially with that hybrid system torque feel you've got. The PDK was quite honestly made for this car. Now, I love the way this car drives, but dynamically, this is my least favorite of the bunch, the Continental Coupe and the Flying Spur Speed, and that's just because it's a convertible, so it's going to be less rigid, it's gonna feel a bit more sloppy, and it's pretty heavy for what it is. It's actually closer in weight to the Flying Spur Speed than the Continental GT Coupe. It's a heavy, heavy boy, and so it is a bit wafty on turn-in compared to the Coupe. Cornering isn't as sharp, but I mean, when you turn ESC off, the understeer isn't as aggressive. You can still feel a lot of rear wheel bias. It just isn't as sporty as you would like it to be, or compared to the coupe version of this car. But I mean, with all that context in mind, for a nearly 6,000 pound car, it truly does handle amazingly. I was riding with my videographer in the passenger seat, and he was just blown away by how this thing handles for how heavy it is. You can just hit all the corners, hit all those apexes, you know, all the extreme dynamic stuff that all the owners of this car are definitely going to be doing in between their, you know, midday naps and whatnot. But even despite this being not as great as the Coupe and Flying Spur in terms of handling, it is better than the previous version despite it being a heavier car, and that's because you've got better weight distribution with the hybrid system. So with the battery now in the rear, we now have, I believe, a 48 to 52 weight distribution versus a 54 to 45 in the previous car. So I mean, the balance is better compared to the non-hybridized coupe, and I can certainly feel that. So once again, hybrid systems actually kind of making the car better to drive, even, you know, when it comes to handling and balance. Now, the W12 is truly something that made these cars iconic, and I know a lot of people kind of just turned their nose to these cars once the W12 officially went away. But I mean, the hybrid system is just so much better in practice. Truly the only time I miss the W12 is when I have this thing parked up at a car meet and someone walks up to the car and they're like, yo, is this the Bentley with the W12? And I'm like, no, it's just the hybrid V8 with almost 800 horsepower. Unfortunately, it's not the big W12. But then as soon as I get back on the road and start driving it, I forget that I don't have the W12 because the hybrid system is just so excellent to drive. It's a lot better. All right, let's take a look at the inside, but firstly, I want to reiterate the trunk space in this car, absolutely diabolical. I mean, you see we have my stuff in here, but then when I take it out, that's what we're working with as far as trunk space. Normally, I have a problem filming trunks because it goes so far deep into the car that you can't see it because of shadows, but this is so not deep that you can pretty much see everything, and all the light captures everything that there is as far as the trunk space in this car. So yeah, hybrid makes it bad. Convertible mechanism makes it worse. This is not a real GT. I would not, well, okay, it's not a real GT as far as being able to, you know, have tons of carry-on luggage space and stuff like that. A Cayman is honestly more practical as far as storage space than this car, unless you want to utilize the back seats. But man, take a look at this interior. It is so sick. Also, I have the wind deflector up because I am 100% in UNC mode. I'm not halfway doing this. I'm not putting my pinky toe in the pool. I am jumping all the way into UNC mode with the wind deflector on because I like being able to not have a bunch of wind noise and being able to hear my awesome music coming out of the Name speakers, or I think that's how you pronounce it, Name. Really awesome speaker set. But then yeah, this is the interior of the Continental GTC Speed. I like that every Bentley I've reviewed on this channel and tested on this channel has had a completely different flavor as far as the interior layout, the trim, the details, the stitching. Everything has always been different. The last Bentley I had on this channel was the Flying Spur Speed that had a gray and orange kind of setup with some carbon fiber and really cool materials. This has this almost like fish scale-like trim that actually is pretty cool, you know? Sometimes, you know, carbon fiber can get a bit old, and I feel like for this spec in particular, this silver trim works better than the carbon fiber stuff. But man, what can I say? All the materials in here are awesome. It's the standard Bentley layout. You have the nice, thick, suede wrapped steering wheel with your heated steering wheel button, your digital gauge cluster. Let's turn the car on real quick, actually. Of course, the screen that flips, and we all love that. Also, seatbelt helpers, just like in my E92 M3. So let's actually put our seatbelt on here and put our seat a little bit forward up. Yeah, I really like this interior a lot. We've got a nice little cubby here where you can put your phone, all of your climate controls, our dials. We don't have to fiddle with the screen for a lot of stuff. It's actually really, really intuitive. We of course have our clock here, kind of like sport chrono for the unks, you know? And then if we want to make the touchscreen go away and have our other dials and clocks right here, we can do that. And it looks so, so clean. Whenever I actually know where I'm going and don't need to use Waze, I always have the screen flipped down because it just looks cleaner. It just looks nicer. Of course, right now we're in EV only mode, but then when I hit sport, you might not be able to hear it right now, but you can hear the twin turbo V8 come to life. Let's give it some revs. Sounds so good. Sounds so good. The seats are super comfortable. They're massaging, and I actually haven't been able to get them to stop massaging. I think that's an issue with this press car, actually, is that the massaging seats will not turn off. Everything about this car, interior-wise, I love. I've got zero complaints. You've got our neck scarf, which blows really, really, really hot air onto your neck. It actually can be a bit much, depending on, you know, how much hot air you want on your neck. But man, this interior is so sick. This is just the perfect place to be. I could do 1,000 miles in one day in this car and not even break a sweat. It's just such a nice interior. I love it. Because of the hybrid system, the low-down torque is insane. It's phenomenal. And then you still have that buttery smooth top end because it is still a big V8 at the end of the day. And so you still also get big V8 sounds. If this car now sounded like a tinny little vacuum cleaner because it was a hybrid system that no longer had a W12, I would understand the complaints, but you still get big engine sounds that now just performs better than the system that came before it. I'm not really seeing the compromise here in practice outside of just not being able to say you don't have a W12 anymore. Gotta keep it a stack. Now, with this being a big and heavy car using an electronically controlled steering system, it's not the greatest, it's not phenomenal, but I think they've done a pretty good job of making it feel nice and weighty and connected and not feeling like vague and unsure of how to plant the car and place the car when you're taking a corner at a higher speed, which, you know, that's something that Bentley owners are gonna be doing all the time. I'd say just because of the weight alone, this is probably my favorite steering car that isn't a 911 or a Cayman within the Volkswagen Audi group portfolio. It just steers so nicely. It just feels like a very premium experience. Sometimes adding weight to things just makes it feel more premium and more serious. I like that. Oh, those brakes are also phenomenal. It's not as great as the carbon ceramics, but, you know, it's plenty for this car. People have been clamoring for a Porsche 928 revival for years. We're talking about a front-mounted two-door coupe from Porsche. That hasn't been done in a long time. And in some ways, you could kind of think of this as one. Now, I know it isn't as enthusiast focused. It doesn't have a manual transmission. It's a lot heavier. It's a lot more luxury oriented than the 928 ever was, but it's got that front mounted, effectively German kind of Porsche V8. And it's got so much of that Porsche DNA infused into this car as far as how it handles the chassis, its responsiveness, its overall connectedness to the road. I mean, the transmission is literally straight from Porsche. It's the PDK. Something you have to realize is that within the Volkswagen Audi group, Porsche is effectively the flagship pioneer of a lot of the crazy tech that pushes Volkswagen Audi group forward, and Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini kind of just take this tech and then put their own little skin on it effectively. And I feel like of all the brands, Bentley has kind of been the biggest benefactor of this technology, maybe aside from Lamborghini. The partnership with Porsche has just allowed them to take all the things we love about Bentley and then just take out all the things we don't love about Bentleys and the way those cars drive. And that's how we get to this. With me recently passing a quarter century in age, I recently had an oh shit moment where I kind of realized that there are no refills on this tank, and now I've only got 3 quarters left, essentially. And while thinking about that is somewhat terrifying, I've also thought about all the things that I look forward to as I get older, and all the things that I can come to enjoy with being older. And one of those things I look forward to is having enough gray hairs to look like I should actually be driving this thing, because this is a straight up unkmobile. But I love it. I love driving this car. It's phenomenal. Is it insanely expensive? Yes. Will it be a lot less expensive in the next couple of years? Also, yes. That's why we always buy used, folks. But overall, my stance on this car is no different than what it was for the Continental Coupe and the Flying Spur Speed. If you want a genuine, super comfy GT with above average luxury and an enthusiast-focused driving experience with an epic big V8 soundtrack, there quite literally is no car that does it better than this. This is, in some respects, the ultimate V8 GT, and in some ways, the ultimate GT, period. And I love it! I love it. If this video gets 40,000 likes, I will buy the cheapest Continental GT and tune it to 800 horsepower with no hybrid system, because I won't be able to afford a hybrid, because that wouldn't be the cheapest. Okay, bye.